And we are live. We are back again, the Sound Advice live stream and podcast. I am Justin, also known as the DIY audio guy. And with me, as always, is the partner in crime, Nick from Toys DIY Audio. Nick, how are you?
I'm doing good. Although this weather's been kind of weird lately, but it doesn't know if it wants to rain or not.
You know, rain was in the forecast yesterday. And so I got up early and cut the grass when it was still soaking wet, thinking I was going to get rained on, and then it never rained. I could have waited till the evening and we're close to sundown and cut the grass, but it happens. It's just part of life. You can't predict the weather, or can you?
No. Well, I mean, obviously, the weathermen get paid not to predict it correctly.
Predictions are hard. Predictions are very hard.
Yeah. Well, I do predict that there's going to be some people watching this show tonight, and I think I'll be all right.
All right. So here is the premise for the show. It's pretty simple. It's an idea I came up with for tonight's topic because I am at a point where I need some help making a decision. I have not done any kind of upgrade in my pickup truck in a long time. And I have been meaning to upgrade the substage. I'm looking at popping in some new speakers just to try something different. I'm happy with what I have now, but I really kind of want to mix things up a little bit. So that's where I'm at. And so what I'm going to be doing is asking for some advice. I won't necessarily follow the advice that you give me, Nick, or that the team in the chat gives me. But I just kind of want some opinions on some things. So looking at the chat, I see, wow, the numbers just popped up real quick. We got a good crowd here. I see a lot of the normal people. 25 Hertz to Life is here. Brian Townsend is here. Elliott Designs is here. Good to see everybody. Blake is here. Regular Guy Audio is here. David K is here. Alpha Wago is here. So got a good crowd tonight. Good to see everybody.
And I'll say this too. My opinion, it doesn't really matter, and it doesn't ever matter even on this show. It's an opinion, and what I feel like with opinions is you take that information in and then you make a decision based off of all the information that you've gathered, whether it be from me, whether it be from the people here, and whether it be whatever research you've done. That's the way I look at it.
That's exactly right. And just reading some comments here. All right. So I want to get started. I need a new head unit. The head unit I have now is a perfectly fine Alpine single DIN CD player and Bluetooth. It doesn't have Spotify connectivity on it. Doesn't do Android Auto or Apple CarPlay. And so the question is, what should I do for a head unit?
That's weird. I just noticed that the Parts Express links are not linking.
Oh, that's not fun.
Yeah. That's a good question, because the head unit is kind of the way I look at it, at least in like a home theater or whatnot, is, it's the brains of the operation. It can be one of the most important devices that you put in the vehicle. So some people disagree with that. Some people say, the speakers are just as important, but I don't know.
Well, I'm an Android guy with my phone, so I do Android. And I noticed that this device right here, the big Stinger floating 10-inch touchscreen, is on sale. And so it's a little bit cheaper than normal. And I'm wondering if this is the way to go, because it has some really good features. Mostly it's got a volume knob, which seems to be rare in this day and age. So you can get a volume knob on it.
So the screen size is not actually 10 inches, right? Is it? Or
no, yes, it's a full 10-inch screen, yes.
So the screen size is 10 inches plus the additional.
Right, plus all the additional stuff on it there. Right. See, how do I go back? Next picture. You can see it kind of hangs out, floats, looks cool, looks like a modern car. And I'm leery about getting a really high-end head unit because I am going to be using a DSP. Now, I do believe this unit has Toslink out and my DSP has Toslink in. And so I'm not sure if, and this is the question right here, $1,000 deck, am I crazy? I think that's
the question.
And that is kind of the question. Is $1,000 deck at all reasonable? And it's either the $1,000 deck or maybe an iPad Dash. But an iPad Dash is going to be more expensive and more time consuming.
Is that wireless Android Auto?
No, this is wired Android Auto.
All right. Well, I'm not going to go on my tangent like I always go on, but
Tangent. Go ahead.
No, my whole thing is, if you're going to be spending that much money, you should be getting at least wireless Android Auto with it.
Right. That's kind of what I was thinking. But I think I like the look of the big floating screen. And,
I do too.
The only cheaper big floating screen would be one of the China Androids.
Does Pioneer not make a 10-inch?
Yes, but it's a $1,200 or $1,300 unit, another $200 or $300.
Okay. Yeah, because I have on mine, and we don't have to talk about it right now, but I have a Toto F7 XE, but I don't believe this one has. I have it actually right there. I haven't used it yet. But
Tech Time with Eric has a question. Does this one have can you mount the screen in a separate location? Not to my knowledge.
No, it's got a ribbon cable back behind there. It should. I mean, most of these 10-inch screens have a ribbon cable that connect onto the screen. So if you, click, right there. Wow.
Yeah, they're not showing the ribbon cable, but it's there, right?
It's usually a ribbon. I mean, I would assume. I mean, I don't know on this unit. I would assume.
Can you put up a screenshot of the Toto that you were looking at? Can you grab that quickly?
Yeah, sure. I'll share that screen. So because my issue is to get like wireless Android Auto and stuff, it costs $1,000+ to get wireless, and so these are typically not as good. They lack some of the features, and they're not as good as like a Sony or something else, but they offer like the features that sometimes we care about more, like the wireless Android Auto, or that's just wireless CarPlay or wireless Android Auto. I guess it depends on if you're Apple or whatnot. And it's actually, I hate to say, it looks very similar to Pinger actually when we look at it.
Yeah. Does the Toto have a volume knob?
It does not. In fact, I think, if I'm not mistaken, you know what? And this, I don't even believe this is the one that I have, because mine, I think, are all. I don't even think they're physical buttons. I think they're
right.
Which I don't know if they have multiple versions of this 10-inch screen. I'd have to look at it. But it is the XE, which has the wireless. But so the question is, do you go with something like this, or even if you go with like a Sony with Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, you're looking at $350 to $450. So then is it worth the extra $100? And it's not going to be wireless.
Right.
Oh, sorry about that.
Oop.
I don't know.
How do these big floating screens hold up to big base systems? I'm guessing probably not very well.
I mean, look at Scott's Excursion. I mean, he blew that thing up. He blew that thing apart. The doors don't even hold up to it. So
right. That's the thing about it. Let's see. I saw a comment. There we go. I don't care if it's wireless, due to you need to charge your phone anyway. So that's a thing to consider. So what's the advantage to wireless if you got to charge your phone?
That's the problem. No, this is why you want wireless. And that's the issue, because when you're charging your phone with a wired Android Auto, you're stuck with the amount of amperage it puts out. And because of that, you have the issue of when you get a new phone, like my new phone, for example, uses USB-C to USB-C to get high-speed charging. Well, I can't use that on my Android Auto wired head unit, but I can buy an adapter for my car for $10 and fast charge my car all day long. So that's the reason actually why you do want wireless Android Auto, in my opinion, because eventually you'll get to a point where you'll plug this into your Android Auto and you have so many things running on this that the charging won't keep up with the of you using Android Auto. You'll actually be losing charge while it's charging.
So my wife's car has an Alpine ILX W650, and it has wired Android Auto, and it's sometimes just not functional. It's really finicky about the cable. The cable needs to be a really high quality cable and the right, USB 2 or 3 or whatever. And it just doesn't get along well with the phone. She has to unplug it to talk on the phone, which is what's the point, right?
Yeah, that's
And so I'm wondering if maybe one of those aftermarket wireless adapters will help, but it doesn't, the USB port doesn't put out enough amperage to charge the phone and properly support the Android Auto, which is the problem.
And I think Blake has it right. He said, hey, it's mainly for data transfer and not for charging. And you're right. And most of them will say, hey, they will do fast charging for the models that are out right then. But every year a new charger comes out for fast charging, and it doesn't keep up anymore.
So my this or that here is, do I just go crazy and get the $1,000 floating touchscreen, or do I dial it back a little bit? And this is Alpine's wireless Android Auto, $750 touchscreen radio.
Well, let's see the Alpine. I mean, right now I'd say go with the wireless Alpine. But I mean, I don't know what you're.
One issue with the bass knob, with a volume knob, I am going to have a bass knob, and I am going to have a DSP that has volume control, remote control, so I can just wire that up into the dash. So I don't have to have a volume knob. I don't have steering wheel controls on the steering wheel, so I'm definitely going to miss being able to reach over and grab the big volume knob and turn the volume up and down.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd go with something like the Alpine, and especially if you're trying to make it a sound quality vehicle, I would go with something like the Alpine over the A-Toto. I feel like the A-Toto is better for like a daily driver.
Right.
Right. You don't really care about the sound quality as much. You just care about functionality.
Yeah, I'm thinking dial it back and get the Alpine. Now, I don't know how I feel about the Jensen. Someone mentioned the Jensen. And yeah, there we go. I don't know. Jensen? I don't know how I feel about Jensen.
That's one of those name brands that we get into and we're like, I'm the same way with Jensen. I feel, for whatever reason, I feel like it's a cheap one. And if I would, at that point in time, I'd rather go with the A-Toto still. I'd rather go with the A-Toto because that's half the price. If something ever happens, so I don't care. I'll just buy a new one. So to me, it would be either A-Toto for daily driver or go up to the Alpine. I don't think the $1,000 one makes sense unless they were wireless. It just doesn't make sense. I like Kenwood.
So I got a question for the chat then. Alpine, Kenwood, Pioneer, or Sony, knowing that JVC and Kenwood are the same company. So those are the ones who make the main name brands for decks, ignoring the Boss and the Jensen and the Chinese brands. So touchscreen, Android Auto, wireless Android Auto. What's the vote? Who says Alpine? Who says Kenwood, JVC? Who says Sony? Who says Pioneer?
I mean, I think some of this also going to be dependent on price, right? I mean, are they all comparatively priced?
Yeah, assuming we're spending the same money.
Okay. So what's your thought on it?
Honestly, I put that that Stinger one in my cart, and then I looked at the cart total and looked at the install accessories, and it was all like, no, I can't pull the trigger on that.
That's a good point that we don't take into account a lot, is how much extra is it going to cost? Because some vehicles, if you do have steering wheel controls, you have to buy a couple $100, stuff just to get those to work properly and things. So, that's a good point. It doesn't sound like you're going to have to do that with yours though, but.
Oh yeah. It's $35 for the install parts, and they're not expensive at all. That's pretty straightforward. Has to have a new dash piece that's part of the kit. I'm thinking that I have installed an Alpine touchscreen. I've installed a Pioneer touchscreen. I've not yet installed a Sony or a Kenwood /JVC. So I'm willing to give those a look. I'm not seeing a Sony. There was a cheaper Sony I had added to the cart as well, and didn't pull the trigger on it. So because I can't make my mind up.
So all right, it says Crutchfield carries 31 of them. So yeah, if you were paying the $1,000, I'd go with the Kenwood Exelon reference first, because it's 11. Well, oh, never mind. That's 1,500. I misread it. I thought that said 1,050. Never mind. I mean, I would still rather have them, but that's obviously a completely different price. Boss.
Now, what is your other head unit option?
So I have a Sony that's hardwired, because once you go to wireless, it's something like the Jensen, which is $350, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with.
Which one is the Sony that's hardwired?
It's the XAV. I can't remember the model number.
Is it the AX 5500?
Let me do 5,000. Axe 50.
Okay.
5,000.
If it's the one I'm thinking,
It's
Sonic
about
Electronics had it on sale for like $350 or something dirt cheap.
See, I mean, this is where it gets interesting, right? Because I'm starting to think the Jensen ones look like the Atoto when you look at the actual like operating system. It looks like just a basic Linux based. And so I'm starting to think like, what am I getting on the Jensen that I'm not getting on the Atoto? It's $350, $550. I mean, you get the name obviously, but when you look at the actual operating system, it looks to be the exact same thing. Same with Boss, by the way. So I think I would go with something like the Alpine if it was me.
All right.
And-
so name brand, not the Stinger.
Yeah, I mean, I think so.
Now, if you go to Stinger's website, they actually have a full dash kit and install stuff and a touchscreen radio this size for my truck.
Here's the deal. I've had a 7-inch and I've had a 10-inch, and I recently went back to a 7-inch from a 10-inch. That 10-inch is so nice.
All the extra space.
It is, and it's so big. Like when you're doing like your navigation, I mean, it just really is nice. It is brighter at night, which can be problematic for some people, but in general, I would rather have the 10-inch screen, man. It's really nice to have. Right. Notorious RVH is right. Head units have gone crazy.
Yep, that's true.
It
is true. $150 radio with a $50 tablet being sold for $1,000. Yep.
And you're lucky if it's a $50 tablet attached.
Right. Tech Time with Eric has had good luck with a Boss Elite. All right. Might be worth looking at.
No, I don't know. I don't think I would go with Boss person, but that's just once again brand awareness. What my brand, when I think of Boss, I don't know if I could pull myself to. Of course, this is the guy talking about Atoto, so who knows?
All right. What have you got next on your this or that list?
Well, I wanted to talk subwoofers. I wanted to talk big subwoofers because I feel like this is a subwoofer dilemma that most people would have. If you want to go with a big subwoofer, and I'm going with 15-inch because I feel like there's more comparable 15 inches than 18 inches. So say you want to go with a big 15-inch subwoofer. Would you rather go with the MX 1522 or the Ultimax 18? I'm sorry, Ultimax 15.
What's the difference in price?
That's the question, isn't it? So I think the 1522 is on sale for it's on sale. Let me double check what price it is right now because it's $230. And the Ultimax 18, I'm sorry, Ultimax 15. I keep catching myself because I always talk about the Ultimax 18. The Ultimax 15 is $270. So it's about a $40 difference.
I think between the two, I'd go with the Ultimax.
You think so?
Yeah.
The Ultimax is nice because it's not a stamped frame, right? So the MX-15 here, I'll share my screen so that people can see what we're talking about.
Yeah.
But that has disadvantages as well. So here's the 1522. So this is
one thing I think is important to notice. For some reason, all the Ultimaxes are dual 2-ohm coils. So if you have one subwoofer, you can wire it to 1 ohm.
Well, these are both dual 2-ohm.
They're both dual 2-ohm.
Yeah.
I thought that the Max X was dual 4-ohm. The MX-15
says dual voice coil, 2 ohms per coil.
Gotcha.
So the Excursion is actually more on the MX-15. It's 24 compared to 19.
But that's 24 measured with the kipple as opposed to using the size of the voice coil to measure it.
So actually when we look in the description, it actually says 19 and 19. So I mean, really, I got to say, output wise, they're fairly similar. I think 800 and 1600 watts, and this one says 800 1600 watts. I mean, it's crazy sensitivity. It's the 1522 is more sensitive. They both use about the same size box. They both can get very, very low. They both, you can get 20 hertz just fine with them playing if you want a big, So, my question is, which one would you prefer? I mean, you save $40 by going with the stamped frame. It does have 3 magnets. Ultimax, I mean, they're both great. The Ultimax, I think they both look nice.
Oh, now that I see that the stats really are more similar than I realized, I think it's almost a coin toss. Would like to see the 2 things I'd like to see. 1, people in the chat, which would you pick? And 2, what other 15-inch subwoofer around the same price point and 1,000-watt power handling would you recommend?
Yeah, now, and I would also say, keep in mind that most likely people would be using this probably for home audio than car audio. Although it might be, someone might be using it for car audio if they have a big enough vehicle and want to throw in there like some vans or whatnot or excursions. See, so my feeling is I would go with the MX 1522. You save yourself a good $40. And honestly, they're practically the same speaker, except for, how they're made. But honestly, like this this stamped steel basket is really nicely made, actually. Really is. I have no concerns about that ever being damaged.
And yes, Brian Townsend, Kicker has a limited product lineup on the Parts Express website. And at least 2 people have voted for a Scar 15. What is up, Robert Hi-Fi Vega?
What's up, Hi-Fi Vega? Stick to Dayton subs. There's also someone that said American Base XFL.
Oh, yeah, the American Base XFL. Those are some pretty good budget subwoofers from what I gather.
Yeah.
Like this comment here, Max X if not mounting inverted.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure why it would matter if it was mounted inverted or not. Maybe he's got a reason why.
He's saying because the basket looks prettier on the Ultimax. So,
you mean if you flip it around to I thought he was saying mounting it like, up. I was thinking like a downward firing sub. I got you. Yeah,
sound quality subs. What are some recommendations for sound quality subs? If I were doing sound quality, I would look at Audio Frog and I would look at Image Dynamics.
CSS SDX12.
The CSS.
Oh man, that with that underhung mode, it's expensive, but it is by far the best subwoofer that I've heard in my listening space at all. It's amazing. And it's small. Like if you use that and you get the passive radiator system, it's a tiny box, can fit anywhere. You could put like 4 of those in a trunk probably.
RVH keeps pounding away on those stereo integrity 18s, and 18, a good solid, well-built 18 for $200. That's a real bargain.
You know what? I loved the HT18 V1 and V2. The V3 though, it's not. If you really go in and model it, I don't like it. It does. Let me put it this way: it does not model well for what used to, because the stereo integrity used to be basically the Ultimax but cheaper, and it was fantastic. It would model the same practically. I mean, it was just a really good driver. The HT V3, I'm not sold on.
We got to vote for Illusion Audio for a sound quality sub.
That's interesting. Oh yeah, stereo integrity SQL series is supposed to be good.
$350 for a 15-inch subwoofer. Adds up in a hurry, doesn't it? It gets really expensive.
So I got a question for you.
Yeah.
So in the smaller subwoofer, so 5-inch subwoofer size, would you rather have the Dayton Epique 5.5-inch or the Tang W5?
Having used the Tang W5, I think would probably want to try the Dayton Epique instead, simply because I'm just no longer that impressed with the W5 and the W6. I'm getting tired of tiny subwoofers, so I would like to. Since I've already tried those out in several builds, I wouldn't want to try another one.
Well, and I guess if you went with the Epique, you could actually use those in kick panels, and you could use those because they are extended range. You can use them up to about 3,000 hertz. So you could technically cross them over and into it. Max X is on sale. Yeah, some of them are. I know the 12-inch is on sale. I don't know.
The 10's on sale, I think.
The 10 and 12 are on sale. I think I'm with you. I've used both of them. I'm actually just finishing up a build with the Epique. And honestly, the name fits its performance. It really does. It's one of those ones that, you know, how you look at a driver and you think, well, that's expensive. Like the CSS STX12. You're like, that's kind of, but when you use it, then all of a sudden you realize why it costs so much. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yes.
And the Epique is that way. And honestly, I feel like the Epique is almost underpriced for what it can do.
You know, they're both kind of pricey for small drivers, though.
Well, I think Brian's right. He said the Epique driver is probably too expensive to use as a subwoofer driver. And he's probably right. If you're just using it as a subwoofer, you're probably right. It's probably better to use as a mid-bass, mid-range. Yeah, he's probably... You know, and that's true, because I mean, how much is the Max X 12-inch?
It's $150, something like that. I mean, it's not terribly expensive.
So, like for $50 more, you could go from a 5.5-inch to a 12-inch.
Yeah.
That's a good. I think you're right. I think he's probably right. The Epique is probably better when you run it in your door panel, or when you run it like I'm building a speaker with it. When you run it in the two-way, it's probably better. And even the Tang W5 is relatively expensive as a 5-inch subwoofer. But I think the only reason why you buy these things is because of the space savings. Like, you buy it because there's a certain spot that you need a smaller subwoofer to fit.
Right. So here's a question John K asking. If anybody in the chat knows the answer, something besides a blown subwoofer, recommendations for inexpensive passive radiators. I don't really know, outside of Parts Express, Kicker sells passive radiators, where to get a passive radiator. I know that PSI has them, but they're not less expensive.
So here's the problem with buying inexpensive passive radiators. Passive radiators, you still have to tune, and you still need the specs off them to be able to tune them properly.
Mm-hmm.
And most of the time when you find them like online for cheaper, there's no specs with them. And I personally don't know how to measure those without using DATs and just basically continuing to add weight until it tunes it to the way that I want it to.
Yeah. So
I don't.
So get a blown subwoofer and knock the magnet off. A passive radiator needs to have a really soft suspension. If it has too stiff of a suspension, it won't work well. So it's more than just taking a subwoofer and knocking the motor off.
Yeah, and I think it's all, and like what we mentioned too is, you know, you still have to tune it somehow. So you got to figure out how you want to tune it. And you know, and the tuning changes with box size, it changes with weight added, without weight added. There's a lot that goes into just throwing a passive radiator. And I think there's a lot of myths around passive radiators, and you did a great video on that.
Right.
You know, just throw anything in there, as long as it's twice the size, it'll probably work just fine. That's just not true.
Right. Okay, so here's a question for you.
True.
How many people in the chat have used a product like a Stinger fast ring?
Man, I have not. What is that?
So the basic idea is it's basically foam that's designed to mimic the foam that you oftentimes see around a factory speaker. And this is Stinger. Someone made them and called them fast rings ages ago, and Stinger, I guess, bought the name fast rings, from what I can tell. And I've used the Stinger fast rings in the past, and I've got an extra set laying around, but there are actually some other competing products that have popped up. So this is a pair. These are for 6x9s. They're $25. And I was browsing the MVX website, and they have their own version that it's just the outer ring, not the inner ring and the outer ring. And they're a little bit cheaper. They even have these that are on sale right now for like $11. And so my question is, Are fast rings really all that essential? Do we absolutely have to use a fast ring, even if it isn't a sound quality build? And thoughts on going with maybe one that's not branded fast ring and try one of these over here, the F ring.
So that's to stop the vibrations then?
And the idea is it's kind of aiming the sound through the speaker cutout in the door panel.
Got you. So it doesn't bounce all inside the door panel.
Right. It's designed to kind of control the sound and fix a little bit of the vibration and stuff.
So the basic, you would use that inside a door, not if you're making your own pods or whatever.
Right. Maybe you might use it if you were making your own pod. It just depends on how it's set up. But so basically you put the fast ring on, you put the door panel back on, and this couples the speaker to the chamber.
Interesting.
I tend to agree with RVH. I think they probably ought to be open cell phone, ought to be closed cell phone instead of open cell phone.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. Yeah, I agree with that thought process. What I wonder why do you think they use open cell? Because you'd think they wouldn't want that.
I don't know. That's something that's always kind of been a head scratcher for me. And there are different companies selling brands. There's more than one sold on Crutchfield's website. Stinger is the most common, yeah. But there are other options out there. The NVX doesn't come with the front and the back, just the front and then the piece that goes on the inner door skin to break up any waves.
So I see. So they're separating the front and rear waves for cancellation almost. Yeah, so basically you're basically building a sealed box.
That's the idea.
Degree. Yeah. Interesting. I like what Robert says, just use weather stripping from a hardware store, which honestly, I mean, it doesn't seem like there would be much of a difference, at least on the front part, if it is open cell foam,
The advantage to the fast ring is it's a little bit taller, deeper, right? And you can just trim it to size. This one right here looks like if your door panel doesn't press up against it, there's nothing you can do about it.
Got you. So you're talking about, okay, got you. So you're saying the thickness of it, it's thick enough that you could make a nice seal on it. Gotcha.
Open cell allows water to pass through it if it gets wet instead of getting stuck. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Right. It will compress when the door panel gets put on. Yep. And whether you can use weather stripping or you need something a little bit thicker, it depends on how much clearance you have.
Interesting. I mean, that's a really, I like the idea of using weather stripping if you want to save a little bit of money though.
Well, if you want to buy from MVX, use the code DIY Audio 10 and you'll get a discount. So if you're going to make an order and you want to use MVX anyways, go for it.
And 10 means if you buy one, you get 10 free. Right?
No. Wait.
I was waiting for you.
No.
I was like, he's reading something else. He's
wait. No, 10% off. Elliott Design says that most door drivers are designed for large enclosure / infinite baffles, so closed cell foam would mean it doesn't leak enough, therefore become boomy, one note, etc. But this foam actually goes in between the speaker and the door panel, the door card. So the back of the speaker is still open and in the door.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, I think we were both. I think Elliot and I were both thinking that this is becoming its enclosure.
Right. It's not an enclosure. It's not a, there's a name for those. There's these baffles that have been around since the 90s and 80s. It's not one of those.
I know
Abstract
what you're
Acoustics says just throw on some sound deadener, several layers, and you're off and running.
Yeah. Interesting. No, I think that's pretty cool.
Stormy Young says that the fast rings worked in this old Lincoln. So that's cool. Awesome. What do you got for us, Nick?
You know what? I kind of want to talk about these amplifiers. So I like amplifiers. You like amplifiers. One of these I own, one of these I don't own. And I'm curious to see which one you would buy. Like if you had, this price point and this price point, which is around the $200 range or so, which amplifier do you buy? Now these are stereo amplifiers. So let me at least tell you that first.
These like Pro Audio amps? Having trouble?
No, they're not Pro Audio amps. Although I do have some on Pro Audio amps. I may not talk about that because I'm actually editing a video and I'm trying to get that out tomorrow, which is actually for the Pro Audio amps. I'm actually going to be. I have 3 Pro Audio amps. I have an iNuke 6000. I have a Dayton APA 1200 DSP, and I have a Crown XTI 2002. And I'm going to talk about which one I prefer and which one and why, and what are the differences between them, because they're all becoming around the same price now. And it's at these points where it's like, all right, which one do I want to buy when I use my when I buy a subwoofer? So these are the 2 smaller amplifiers. So this is the SMSL A0200. Here's the deal. This thing is nice. I mean, it uses the Infineon power chips, the Class D power chips, which are some of the best on the market, arguably the best on the market. If you want to say HypeX or something else, I can understand that. But Infineon, most people are going to say, is one of the top of there. And everything, I mean, this has been just a really good amplifier for a long time. Class D, 150 watts by 150 watts. It has, all the inputs you would need on it. It has your balanced inputs. It has RCA. It does have subwoofer out for a powered subwoofer, USB, Bluetooth antenna, you name it. And it's got a lot of options. I actually use this for testing. Love this amplifier. So I have this. So my question is, like, if you had $300, would you buy this, or would you go non-conventional and buy something like the Dayton Hybrid stereo tube amplifier that just looks pretty cool? And this has fiber optic in. It does have subwoofer out, has USB. It does not have the XLR connector, like the balance, but I don't think for most people that's really an issue.
That's a tough call. I'm not really sure. How much is this one right here? Dayton is how much? $189.
Dayton's about $200. Yeah.
What's the power output on it? 100 watts total, 50 watts per channel.
Yeah. It's 100 watts total. The other one's 150 watts. So, that's where your big price difference comes. You're also getting the price difference because I'm going to see if Parts Express has better pictures.
Right.
You're also getting the price difference because, the SMSL has, they have I would assume the better. I'm going to assume Dayton Audio is and I don't know this, but I'm just going to assume that they're using probably Texas Instruments chips. There's nothing wrong with that. This does have bass and treble knobs right on the front, which is cool. The SMSL does have it. It's in the menu system. But you can do either direct or, and they have some presets as well. This one also has a phono input though, which is kind of cool. And the SMSL does not have a phono input.
I feel like the tube amp is kind of for show.
Yeah, well, it is. It's probably like a tube preamp. It just adds a little look, but it does look nice though. I think it looks cool.
Yeah. I don't know. That's a hard call. Does it have a voltage of VU meters on the front?
Yeah.
Oh, so VU meters for the win.
I know, isn't it? It looks really cool. Like, it's one of those things that if I had, I don't know, like a little, if I had 2 speakers hooked up to, say, my record player, I would definitely go with this. It even has the ground in the back. I don't know if you saw that, but it has the ground right here in the back for your record player.
Oh,
when you hook up your phono up to it. So it's neat. I want to try this because for $200, I feel like, and it has subwoofer out, so I feel like for $200, I don't know. I'd like to try it at least. What did anyone in the chat say anything about it? What did they say?
Several people asking about is it a tube preamp section, and just kind of like to know, and several bits of advice about some alternatives, but no real comments yet.
So I believe it is a preamp because it's 50 watts per channel, and I don't think those 4 tubes would be giving you the output that you would need for 50 watts per channel.
So Jimmy got a question. Jimmy's asking, does this channel cover car audio? So the answer to that is absolutely yes, it does. Nick and I, we view ourselves more as DIY audio people as opposed to car audio or home audio people. We dabble in all of it. I lean more towards the car. Nick leans more towards the home. And Nick's a master speaker builder. If you were to go to his website and look at some of the plans and designs that he's made for home audio DIY speakers, I don't think there's 10 years from now, we're going to look back and he'll be one of the big legends of DIY home audio speakers. And so we cover all audio topics. We don't really differentiate between home and car because it's audio the same. And people who are into home theater are also into car audio oftentimes. So it's mostly due to like toys.
Well, I appreciate the kind words. Thank you. And the same with, anyone that watches this channel a lot knows what Justin is doing in the car audio world. And it's just been fantastic. The amount of data and information that he gets out and really the myth busting he does is, as far as I can tell, both him and Big D Wiz are like the two that do the best at, and that's Hi-Fi Vega as well. I'm sorry, Hi-Fi Vega. I forgot. But those guys, they do such a great job for the audio community.
Speaking of Hi-Fi Vega, he's doing a really good this or that right now. He's doing like an 8 subwoofer shootout series. He's done like a Final Four kind of bracket, and he did a great video comparing a CT sounds to a Scar, and that was a good video. More people should be watching that video. That's a good video.
So I will say this: someone had mentioned that the tubes sound warmer, and I agree. And I love tube sound on a lot of things. I know my SMSL DAC that I have right here. I have a DAC and a headphone amp right here, SMSL, that I love. And it does have one of the presets is a tube amp preset. And it does make your headphones sound significantly warmer. And I love it. I did a review on these. This is the DO200. You can check that out. I'm not sure if the AO200 has it on there. I think it does, but it may not. It might just be on the DAC. I can't remember.
Awesome. I was reading comments, so I missed most of that.
Yeah,
repeat all that one more time so I have it. For me.
No, you're good. They all got it. And Hi-Fi Vega is right. It is a form of distortion. Who is that that talks about distortion a lot? Geddes. Earl Geddes, Dr. Earl Geddes talks about distortion a lot. And he does mention that there's some distortion that we find pleasing and some that we don't find pleasing. And a lot of times that distortion that the tubes add, we find pleasing. Justin is a scatterbrain tonight.
I'm always a scatterbrain. There's several things going on at once. So, all right, I've got one for you. I have a this or a that. And this particular this or that is kind of a big picture this or that. It goes back to my original premise of I'm looking to do some upgrades in the truck. I'm trying to figure out what direction I want to go in. And I have been planning on doing an underseat enclosure in the truck for a long time. And I have 2 of these that have been sitting on a shelf, collecting dust, serving as props in videos for it's been 18 months at least, and I haven't gotten around to it because I've got to fiberglass that box. I've never done fiberglass before. And so my question is, should I stay on that plan, figure out how to get the fiberglass done, put a pair of 10-inch subwoofers, and I got some tricks that I want to try. It's not going to be just, oh, hey, it's a pair of 10s under the seat. Or should I just say the heck with it? Since I'm doing a lot of testing with speakers and I've got some company to send some speakers to me. So I just say the heck with it, yank the back seat out of the truck like Parker, the basshead, did over on his channel, put a board down and just start sliding big subwoofers in to test. So the question is, would I be better off to attempt a fancy under seat build, or should I just toss the back seat and then just go with some big subwoofers, a pair of 18s, something like that? And I saved this comment right here. Should I just do what RVH has been nagging me to do for months now and just get a pair of stereo integrity 18s and toss the back seat and just go crazy? What do you think, everybody? No. What do you mean no?
Well, all right. Here's my opinion on it. I like the idea of the 10s under the seat. One, I think to a certain degree, it's harder to make a good box like that because you have to really finagle it, fit it well, make sure that the woofers aren't rubbing, things like that. And two, they can look really nice like that. I like that better. I'm not a big fan of tearing out your seat unless you're doing like these crazy, I don't know, these crazy build like base builds. But I don't really feel like that's who you are typically.
The thing I'm running into is that the truck is more than just my listening environment and my build. It's becoming a test bench.
Yeah.
And every time I'm cramming a subwoofer on that seat, knowing that I'm losing energy as it moves on the seat, and knowing it looks like crap to have a subwoofer sitting on my seat and just kind of it's kind of uncouth, I'm thinking more and more about just pulling the back seat out and just going for it.
I guess the question really comes down to is, do you use your back seat or not?
No, I've actually had the seat belts pulled out for several months now, and no one's ever noticed.
And you don't put anything in the back seat, like storage wise.
Nope. It's an empty seat with a subwoofer sitting on it.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I would. You could take a look at the 18s.
It seems that.
Can I make a suggestion though? Instead of doing 18s,
What's that?
can we just say forget the 18s and do 221s?
I wonder if they'll fit.
I bet they like. I'm building 221s. I don't have them right here. 6 cubic feet. That's it. 2x2x2. 2x2x2. That's 4 foot. 4 foot across. 2 feet deep. 2 feet tall. That's it.
Yeah, I can't keep up with all the comments. People are going, let's go for the 21. So it seems like the comments are more kind of like in the base head kind of range, and they're just all like, go full send, go crazy, Justin, load it up with some big subwoofers.
Dude, here's the deal. So I have 221s. They're SB audience, and I'm going to be doing a build in the home theater with them. They start to fall off in the 2x2x2, which is a small box. It's not a big box. When you think about it, sealed, completely sealed. Its F3 is like, I don't know. Don't quote me on this. It's like 35 hertz or something. So your car's going to be taken over way before then. You're going to get ridiculous. Yeah, with 221 sealed, the only question you really have is how much do you like your windshield?
I like my windshield a lot. I don't actually want to tear the car apart. It needs to keep going until used car prices come back down and I can replace it with something.
Here's the crazy thing about that though, right? So, and I don't remember right offhand what the SB audience sensitive, but it's like something like 95 decibels sensitive. So you do something like that. I mean, you don't even need much to push it. You just be like,
and that's a consideration because no matter what route I go, I'm at a point where I feel I definitely need to do an electrical upgrade, that I need to, a bigger amp. I can't talk. I'm trying to read comments at the same time. No matter what I do, I'm going to need to upgrade the electrical. I'm going to need a better battery setup, and I want to get an alternator. So this is something that's going to take thousands of dollars, and it's going to take 6, 7, 8 months to work my way up to the gear.
Let me tell you this. All right. Sensitivity on those SB audience. Remember, F3 around 35 to 40 hertz. You shouldn't need to worry about anything other than that. 98 decibels sensitive. You put 2 of them in there, you're going to lower so you're looking at like 104 decibel sensitivity. Yeah, 1 watt of power. That's what you need, man. 1 watt from 3 feet away. You'll be.
Can I borrow your tube amp?
That is funny. Hey, let me tell you a story. Actually, this reminds me of a story that happened last night.
Yes. So
my friend Robbie calls. I built him 2 15s of those. Actually, it's the HO. Oh, it might be the HO. I think it's the HOs, the RSS HO, but the 15-inch version of those.
Yeah.
We built him 2 of those.
I call them the hoe.
The hose. So he has 2 of the hose, and when he's playing the music, when he's standing in front of it, long story, but he had to take the couch out, and he has these right up against his couch, and he's like, he kept complaining to me that he was having to turn his amp up too much and everything. I said, look, there's something wrong. I don't know what's going on. I'm not there. He lives too far away for me to go there. It's like 8 or 10 hours away. I said, I don't really know. We're going to have to just dissect it someday. And anyway, he flipped the couch over. He's standing in front of it. And he goes, Nick, it's so weird. He goes, I don't have any bass standing in front of the subwoofers. If I go behind it, I have all the bass in the world. And I said, do me a favor. Flip the polarity of one of your subwoofers, and then tell me what happens. Flip the polarity, and all of a sudden he's like, oh my gosh, I'm going to destroy my eardrums. So if you ever have subwoofers you don't think are acting right, you have two of them right next to each other, check to see if they're out of phase. His were out of phase.
I've told the story before. When I was putting my current system in the truck, the 3-way front stage, and I first fired it up, I was just bummed out because it sounded like crap. And I dug out the phase popper tester thing, right? The $15 off Amazon. And sure enough, just in the original install I did, I had the wires cross somewhere on like 3 of the 4 drivers or something. And sure enough, I had things out of phase, went into the DSP, flipped a switch in the DSP, and it was just like magic. It was like, great. Yeah, that polarity, it matters.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that reverse play. As soon as he said that, I was like, dude, your polarity's off. Just flip it. And what I think he did is he was actually messing with the EQ settings on his Crown amp. And I think he actually reversed the polarity inside the amplifier without noticing what he was doing on one of the channels. And so the speaker wire was actually wired correctly, but not. And so it's great. Yeah, Jimmy Goodyear's asked what WinISD is. It's free software, downloadable on the internet. If you want help learning it, I did a video series on it. You can check my channel, Toids DIY Audio. Toids DIY Audio. That's TOIDS, like my name. And you can find those. You can also go to my website, toidsdiyaudio.com. We can help you out there too.
And I've got a couple of videos, one where I kind of show how to use it, and several where I kind of use it to show people how speakers work, kind of stuff. Really handy tool. Let me tell you, gotta be careful though, because it is a rabbit hole. It can be hard to learn. And then you look up and it's 2 o'clock in the morning and you set up all night modeling subwoofers. So, but
here's the deal though. I think that is one of the programs, especially being free, one of the programs that is so worth learning. That and Rue, I think, are both free programs that are just worth learning if you're going to be doing this hobby, whether it's car or home audio, no matter what. They're the two things to learn.
So Rue is Room Equalization Wizard, and that's also free software. You do need to buy a good quality calibrated microphone for it to work with it. I've got it installed on a couple of computers. I actually hate it. I find it to be extremely not user friendly.
No, I hate it too.
I'm really thinking about dropping money for paid versions of that software, because it's not fun to try to film a video and spend the entire day cussing Rue.
I would just go with the Omni mic. People don't understand. The Omni mic is such an easy software. And Brian Steele said, hey, last time I checked, WinISD didn't take inductance into consideration. That's incorrect. It does allow for it. Maybe an older version didn't. And it's probably true an older version didn't. But if you go into your settings, you can actually select the inductance, and it will model it with the inductance. However, standard, it does not.
I learned something.
So you do have to select that in WinISD, and I'll open up the app to figure out exactly where you select it, because I don't remember right off the top of my head where it is. It's in one of the options at the bottom.
Nick, what else have you got?
Well, let me just check this real quick. So if you go to the advanced tab, you can hit simulate voice coil inductance, and when you do that, it will change. Yeah, you can do slot ports, and WinISD will allow you to do slot ports or regular ports or.
Right.
All right, I have a question about a tweeter. One of the tweeters I'm actually using in a build right now, and the other tweeter is a tweeter that I'm just personally interested in, and I have no experience with, but it's interesting. So we have the CSS LD25X, and that's one on CSS's website that I'm sorry, on Parts Express website. That's a good one. They're both very expensive tweeters, but the CSS uses an XBL2 motor, and so it should.
While you're pulling that up, I want to call attention to Brian Steele's comments. Y'all, Brian Steele knows his stuff. He really is he's a smart guy who's got a lot of great experience in this stuff. And he likes Room EQ Wizard. For me, it's just hard to use. It's extremely powerful with terrible documentation.
Well, it's free for a reason, right? And I don't mean that negatively. I think we both agree it's extremely powerful, but your time is money. So you got to ask yourself, where's the money being spent? Is it being spent on the program, or is it being spent in your time? And typically with Rue, it's going to be spent with your time or something like that. That's why I advocate for the Omni mic for people that do this a lot, because the Omni mic, it's an expensive, like first, I was like $200 or $300 now. I can't remember, but the software is so simple. Like they make it very simple. So
Joseph Moss, thank you for the super chat. I feel like I've seen that software before. I'm not sure how it's pronounced.
Virtuix.
Yeah. Okay.
I thought there was an R in. I thought there was an R in there. Maybe there's not.
I know I've stumbled across some videos on it somewhere, but I don't have any experience with it. Maybe I'll need to look into it.
Yeah, it's also a free program. I've never. I don't use that one either, but I wouldn't mind looking into it sometime. I think no, Impulse Audio does not use it. I was thinking he used it. Well, these are
Brian, the problem I had is the laptop I was using, I couldn't get the microphone settings set up correctly, so it never could. I just fought with the microphone and the laptop and Rue and wasted a good 12 hours of my life, and now I'm mad at it.
Well, there's a lot of things that people don't know to do in Rue, especially setting the gating to get proper measurements and things of that nature, that you have to really pay attention to, because without those things, and no one's going to tell you that right off the bat. That's once again where I like the OmniMic better. You just literally select a spot on the graph and where your impulse is, and it shows you. You visually see it, and you just select it, which is nice. Once again, though, it's each their own. Some people love Rue, and I don't mind Rue, but like you said, I think in general it's not user friendly. All right, so here's the tweeters. So here's the ones I'm using in one. These are the CSS LDX25 XBL2 tweeters. They are $200 each. So it's $400 a pair. They handle.
What the world are you building with those things, man? That's gonna be an expensive pair of speakers.
It's an Epique build.
It's going to be epic with an epic price tag. I'm impressed.
Yeah, they are very nice tweeters. And the XBL2, they're very good. They do have low distortion. It is a 1 inch compared to the Morels, which are 1 in an eighth inch. So technically you'll get a little bit better off axis with the CSS, but the Morel come as a matched pair.
That's right. They're matched. They've been matched from the factory to hang out well together.
From the factory, and you are paying more, $20 more speakers, so $400, $40 total more. But to me, I know what the CSS is capable of because I'm using them right now, and I kind of want to know: are these Morels really worth the price you're paying? And I don't know. I mean, I kind of like the idea of the matched pair too for the price. What do you think?
I'll leave this up to the chat, because when we start talking about $200 per component tweeters, I start getting to the point where my internal tightwad starts going, I don't know about that.
Well, the other cool thing about the Morels is you can buy the diaphragm later. So if the diaphragm goes out, you can replace it for $30.
Oh, that's good. Now,
yeah, I mean,
I'm also the guy who opened the show with $1,000 head unit, so maybe I'm crazy.
I was just thinking that. I was literally just thinking that. Yeah. So what's the chat saying? Anything good or bad on that? No one said anything about it.
No,
To me, I think I would try the Morels over the CSS next time. I like the CSS. Nothing wrong with them. I do get some. You'll see in the video when I put out the video this weekend that there's some of those things.
Nick, what do you think about a sono tube with the MX-15?
I think that'd be cool.
Yeah,
I'd like that. The only thing is making sure you get the right size port there, because you need a pretty long port. But you know what? I think you could do a sono tube, and even if you did a slot port, you could probably do a really long slot port, because it's, you probably do a pretty tall sono tube. But yeah, I think that would be really cool.
Yeah, I mean, I like. I've not yet built a sono tube sub, but it's just a cool concept. Yeah,
I like what Speedway Audio said. If $40 is going to kill you, then maybe you need to look at $100 tweeters. Yeah, no, my point is, like, which one would you guys buy in that price range? And I think I would try the Morels next time. I have the CSS already. I'm using those. I do like them. But for $40 more for a matched pair, I feel like that's worth it.
The matched pair thing's intriguing. And if you're going to be going with builds that are that expensive, maybe why not? I mean, if the $40 makes that big of a difference to you, you shouldn't be looking at $600 tweeters.
They're $440.
Oh, yeah. $440. Sorry. Yes.
Yeah, that's a big difference. Both of them are very flat. I mean, they both look very, very good. So I think next time, if I were to build another build like this, I'm going to go with the Morels next time. By the way, Jimmy Gutierrez said he just bought the Definitive Technology Tower speakers, and we talk about them a lot. I like those. I gave my pair away to my friend Robbie, but they're very, very nice speakers.
Let's see. Thoughts on maximum watts for a car with a sunroof? I mean, if you're in an SPL competition, you just want to seal that sucker off. I mean, it's just going to be a weak spot, right? But I mean, if you're not worried about getting a number on a meter, it really doesn't matter.
Yeah, because you shouldn't be playing it that loud that it's going to affect your sunroof anyway, unless you just don't want to hear later. So we get this question a lot too about maximum watts, and I want to talk about this real quick. Maximum watts are dependent on the sensitivity of your driver. So there's a lot of dependency there, but one of the main things is dependent on, hey, thanks, David, is dependent on the sensitivity of your driver. If you have a very sensitive driver, you don't need nearly as many watts. I've done a video on that. I think you've done a video on that too, right?
I did some videos where I kind of described the science of SPL, right? How it follows a logarithmic scale, and David, thank you so much for the super chat. We really appreciate that. It means a whole lot to us. And so that's the thing to keep in mind, is that if you start off with a very sensitive driver, you don't need as much power, and most car audio subwoofers are just absolutely not sensitive. These subs have big, heavy magnets and big, heavy motors and stiff suspensions. They need a lot of power to get moving. And because power's kind of gotten cheap, right?
And I did one, I think it was something like double the wattage doesn't equal double the volume, right, or something of that nature, or loudness. And, and because a lot of people get confused. And the truth of the matter is, on your subwoofer, going typically from 500 to 600 watts isn't going to make a huge difference in SPL, although in a car it'll make more of a difference, I'm sure. But
so in a car, this is the real answer to the question: is, are you upgrading the electrical? Because that's always the bottleneck.
That's a great question. Yeah,
Nick, I'm looking at the time, and we've gone over our hour. Is there anything that you just have to get out before we do our final wrap up?
Absolutely not. Nope, I'm pretty good. I thought today was good. So here it is. I was looking for that video. So it's actually called "Double Your Power Does Not Equal Double Your Loudness. You've Been Lied to." And I have to find I'll get the comment section. I'll put it in there in the comments section for anyone that might be interested in seeing that.
Well, what have you got coming up next on your channel, Nick? What do you have going on that you that's important and exciting?
So anyone that's been watching me or following me on Instagram, or if you're a Patreon, the Patreons have a lot more information than I guess we actually did like a live Patreon where we actually worked on the crossover design together. And we talked about the speakers and what I was looking for, what I wasn't looking at. And that was really good. Anyone that is one of my patrons that did not catch that live, you can still catch it. It just, it goes to YouTube afterwards. You just won't be able to ask me live questions. But those speakers are coming out. They're called the Epiques. Each one of the speakers uses a 5.5-inch Epique driver. They use two 5.5-inch Epique drivers on each one. They use two 8-inch passive radiators, and they use that CSS LDX25. It's an amazing build. It's not a cheap build, but it is a very high sound quality build. And it's not even that tall. They're what I would call either mini towers or tall bookshelves, however you want to call them. Really, really good sounding. Sound great. That video should be out this week. I also have a video that I'm working on, I think I said earlier, on me talking about the different PA drivers to power your subwoofers in your home theater. I'm sorry. PA amplifiers. So I'm going over the Crown XTI 2002. I'm going over the Behringer NX 6000D and the Dayton Audio APA 1200 DSP. Which one's the right one for you? And honestly, I think you'll be surprised at which one I recommend for. I think you'll be surprised. I'll leave it at that. So we have that video coming out. And that video I'm going to try to get out tomorrow. If I don't get it out tomorrow morning, then it'll be the next day. But that will be out this week as well.
I've got two things that I'm working on. I've got my polyfill test video that I've done all the filming, I think, and need to edit. And this last weekend, I wasn't in a mood to edit. So I didn't edit it. I filmed another video. And now I have 2 videos left to edit. And I don't know when I'll get them out because I'm just not in the mood to edit lately. So I'm working on a video where I managed to acquire an inexpensive SPL meter. And I've got a video where I'm showing how loud you can get for a really, really low budget. And I was kind of surprised at how loud my under $300 budget bill was able to get. So those are 2 things. With a little bit of luck, one will come out on Sunday. And unless I'm just not in the mood to edit, and then it might be next month before you see a video from me. So sometimes that's just how things go. So,
yeah, I mean, it can be hard and tiresome to because we don't do videos that are formulaic.
Right.
And so when you do formulaic videos, it's easier to get them out weekly. But when you do, off the cuff where it's not where you can't just basically just follow a script and then put numbers up on the screen or whatever, it makes it more difficult. And sometimes even our editing doesn't like us.
Well, you start a project and you have a video idea, and halfway through the project, you're like, yeah, that's not what this video is going to be about at all.
I can't wait for RGA to watch my video. He said, I gave away an iNuke. I hated it so much. And I can't wait for you to watch that because I'll be interested to see what you think about what I say about the iNuke. I would have shot it, but bullets are expensive. Yeah. There you go.
Here we go. iNukes, I had to, blew both very consistent amps.
Here's the deal. The reason why a lot of people used to go with the iNukes, and I'm just going to put this out here right now. The iNuke 6000D DSP, actually, it was the NU 6000 DSP, used to be $400. $400. It's now $720. And that's where all of a sudden the race has tightened. In my eyes. Yeah, and I'll be interested in RGA. I'll really be interested if you want to tell me later what your thoughts are on. I'd be really interested with what you say. Mine was a 6000. Mine is actually not the DSP'd version, although I am going to be talking about the DSP'd version of all of them because I feel like if you're going to be using it for subwoofers, you're most likely going to get the DSP version. All right, guys, I'm sorry. I went on a tangent. I apologize.
That's fine. The tangents are the fun parts. All right, everybody. It is time to say goodbye. We are out. Now's that awkward point where I hit the end broadcast button and it takes like 30 seconds for the broadcast to end. So here we go.
See you guys.
Will it ever end? Is it going to keep going?